Good evening and welcome to the council meeting of July 25th, 2022. The meeting is being live streamed on Facebook Live, and the most up-to-date meeting package is on the Town of Kentville website. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting package? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? I will remind members of council that we are in decision-making mode and we should be mindful of our decision-making wheel. We have committed to making balanced and respectful decisions and adhering to our code of conduct. This council, through policy and by motion, has adopted Robert's Rules as our rules of order, our parliamentary procedure. We will be voting by electronic means for all votes except administrative. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before this meeting commences? I note that all members of council are present and we have quorum. We have been provided with a proposed agenda. Are there any further additions to the agenda? CAO?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. So the solicitor has asked to have an opportunity to speak to council in camera with regards to a legal matter, and this is regarding some correspondence that was just recently received. So that would be 10A, legal matter.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I would like to add the Jennifer Weston HR report to the agenda. The outcome that I would like to see from this is to have council view the report with recommendations to follow. So that's what I would like. I'd like to have it added, and I would like to have it added under new business, please.
So I will begin by saying that it cannot go under new business as it was a legal opinion provided to the town of Kentville. Are you interested in camera?
No, I'm not interested.
All right.
No, I'm not interested in camera. My mic is off. And the reason that I would like to have it discussed is because we're not talking about the contents of the report. I have no interest in the contents of the report. What I would like to see is the report. And this was a council decision to have that report done. It was voted on by council, and it was decided that we would initiate that report. I think that council then should have received that report and made the decision what to do with it. And so that's why I would like to have a discussion on whether this council would like to see that report.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. Solicitor, did you have anything to add?
This isn't really fair. You caught me with my mouth full. Excuse me for just a second. It's certainly a matter that could be added to the agenda, but the discussion, it depends on where the discussion leads, whether it must be in camera. The report, the very nature of the report is not something that's ever been discussed in public. So the fact it's been brought up here, as I recall, is the first time it would have been mentioned in public in these chambers. So it should be in camera from my perspective.
All right, thank you, Solicitor. Councillor Maxwell, it will not be added to the agenda. Councillor Zabian?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. I'm going to repeat what Councillor Maxwell said. We don't want to talk about the details of the report. We just want to see if council would, we'd like to have the report provided to us. I think 2 years is a long time for a report that the citizens of Kentville paid for, and I think we would like to see it.
Thank you.
That's what my item would be to add to the agenda, and I think the solicitor just said we can add it to the agenda. We're not going to get into the details of the report. We just want to have full disclosure on the report. Thank you.
Solicitor?
We have to be careful what we talk about here. And it's not about keeping things from the public view. There's a common misconception that there is a report, first of all. And just because it's been stated that there is a report. And so that part of the discussion, in and of itself, needs to occur in camera. And I would encourage council to have this discussion. And indeed, you may find that it's part and parcel of a larger discussion that may be had on the agenda in any event, if I can say that. So the councillors may be satisfied with the agenda as it stands, or they could add this to the in-camera discussion on that particular issue. And that's what I would encourage.
Thank you, Solicitor. Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, thank you. I can appreciate the solicitor's advice, but council is the decision-making body. We're the ones who are supposed to make decisions. We can take advice or we can leave advice. We know that there is a report. Frank Magazine knows there's a report, and the staff knows there's a report. We voted on whether or not we wanted to initiate that report. We voted on whether we wanted to have somebody come in and do that report. Therefore, council should see that report. We were given a verbal.
Your Worship, I'm not in a position to call a point of order, but I need to interrupt.
Certainly.
This discussion stems from in-camera conversations of this council, and neither one of these councillors should be discussing it in open session. The existence or non-existence of this document, and it's been misstated by both councillors as to what it is. And it's my obligation as legal counsel to the town of Kentville, and not to any individual around this horseshoe, to make sure that when you're debating an issue, that you have the facts in front of you. And it'll be part of what I have to discuss in camera later. But neither one of these councillors have stated the facts correctly around this investigation and what came from it. And that is why I recommend that it be held in camera. And discussion of it in these chambers should not be occurring, because it's never occurred in open session, and it was always addressed in camera. The fact it's been brought forward here now is very concerning from a legal perspective.
Thank you, Solicitor. Councillor York.
If that is the case, then can we not just add it to in camera? I think we would agree, or I would agree, I don't want to speak for everybody, that it is important to discuss, but perhaps it ought to be in camera as per the legal advice from our solicitor and to Councillor Zabian and Maxwell's, I think, original intent, which is to have the conversation.
All right, thank you, Councillor York. You do not have the floor, Councillor Maxwell.
I thought I had my button on. Sorry, I didn't have it on.
No, Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. I just want to say that I apologize if I'm out of line, but we've never been educated on this, whether this exists or not. And I mean, that there in itself lies a problem. When the staff of Kentville is talking to a publication looking for a report, there's a problem here. And we can sit here and duck our heads between our legs and pretend that it doesn't exist. But there is a problem here, and I want to get to the bottom of it. So if we have to go in camera, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. The Jennifer Wesson will be 10B. If I could have a motion to, Deputy Mayor, sorry.
Thank you, Worship. Have it? Thank you, Worship. So I'm going to make just a couple comments that this is an HR matter, and I'm satisfied that we did our duty as a council with the best of advice given at the time of the occurrence. I am disappointed that individuals, nobody in particular, but individuals continue to resurrect this. It was unfortunate, and I know I personally feel terrible that this has been brought up again, and that some staff are re-injured through the process. I myself, I trust the HR process, and I trust our CAO, and if staff feel aggrieved in any way, that they would come forward to the CAO. I'm not sure that discussing this in camera will result in anything constructive. That said, obviously, if it is the wish of council, the majority, that we put this in an in-camera, as an in-camera item, then I will respect that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell, you've already spoken 3 times on this matter. We have on the floor right now 10B, Jennifer Weston, in camera. All those in favor of having this on the agenda, please? 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 6. Oh. So we have 2 additions to the agenda. If I could have a motion to adopt the agenda, please, as amended. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Second, Councillor Huntley, did I see your hand? All right, all those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. The next item we have are the minutes of the June 27th, 2022 council meeting. I note one change on page 7, paragraph 8C. It should read Marcia McNeil. Are there any other changes with regards to these minutes? Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, I'd just like clarification on what we're going to do with the correspondence that's listed. Are we going to read it? Are we going to summarize it? What are we going to do with it?
Councillor, we're doing minutes right now.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. All right, so we do have changes to this set of minutes. Next up is a presentation by our auditor. The financial statements have been prepared and are ready for signature and ultimate approval by council, and I'm pleased to say that our auditor, Andy Force, is with us this evening, and both of our citizen members on the audit committee, Jim Noonan and Susan McDougall, are also present here this evening. So Andy, the floor is yours. You've got the mic. I realize you have another appointment that you have to make, so please.
Hi, thanks for having me. I wanted to start by thanking town staff and members of the audit committee for their assistance throughout the audit process. I know it can be a difficult time for staff with a lot of extra work involved. I also like to appreciate the 2 residence members of the audit committee, Sue McDougall and Jim Noonan, for their assistance on the audit process. I believe they're in attendance. It's nice to see that there are members of residents in the audit committee, which is a great practice to have. Just a very small preamble on the objective of an audit. I know not everybody understands it. The objective of an audit is to offer an opinion on whether the financial statements do or do not present fairly according to your standards, and your standards are public sector accounting standards. They're specific to municipal government. The best analogy I can give would be the old TV show Law and Order, where the first half of the show is police work. The second half of the show is the courtroom. And our role as auditors essentially replicates that. We have to build evidence through your information that you provide us and we have access to, and then we evaluate that evidence and form a conclusion, and that conclusion is presented in the form of an audit report. So that's the objective of an audit, and what we need to do is that we need to find sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. And there's multiple types of audit evidence. We need to get enough of highly relevant and reliable information to form that conclusion. And so Deb and her staff have been kind enough to give us full access to your system, unfettered. Jason, the IT gentleman here across from me, sets us up in your boardroom with full access to your systems. We can see anything and everything. Nothing is hidden from us. Nothing is withheld from us. And we spend approximately 1 month, not consistent, but off and on for about a month of doing audit testing, gathering evidence, evaluating that evidence, and then forming our conclusion on whether your statements do present fairly or not in that concept of materiality. And that concept of materiality is, would a reasonable person's opinion change one way or another by an inaccuracy on those financial statements? And after gathering thousands and thousands of pages of information, our conclusion was that those financial statements are presented fairly. Which is to say that no one's opinion would really be changed by any error or omission. a unique relationship with an auditor that most professionals don't have is that you hire us and you pay us, but we really represent a third party. We represent the users of your statement. So that might be Municipal Finance Corporation, the province of Nova Scotia, the residents of the town of Kentville. So my angle will be to represent them, even though we have a direct contractual relationship. So our focus would be what those users would need from those financial statements, and that's sort of our position. So we take an approach of professional skepticism. We don't take anything that's given to us as assumed fact. We have to do sort of an unbiased and independent objective check of that, and we've done that thoroughly, again, for the, I think this is our 7th year doing it, and we are happy to report that, that we feel those statements are presented fairly. Just a few highlights. One of the points I like to make as auditor is that as town council, you're effectively stewards for the financial resources of the town. You set tax rates and you collect money from the residents of the town of Kentville. You assume debt, and then how you use those resources are important. How do you set your tax rates? Are they a reasonable amount? Are your spending on capital projects appropriate or insufficient? Do you spend to the appropriate levels for admin, transportation, things of that nature? And this year, a strong financial result. You have a net surplus of $596,000, 776. Now that's a public sector accounting surplus. Now there's some cash flow differences there. We take in non-cash items like amortization on your capital assets, but we don't factor in debt repayments and capital purchases. So on the whole, you have pretty much a balanced budget again this year, which is happy to report. The other thing that's nice to report is that you have net financial assets of just under $13 million, which is a very, very healthy figure, one of the largest of any town in the province of Nova Scotia. So the financial position of the town of Kentville is very strong and very healthy and very vibrant. And that's compounded by the fact that you actually have in the close geographical area the lowest tax rate of any town. And the county is a little bit cheaper, but that's a different set of resources and a different set of services, of course. But of towns in our area, the town of Kentville does have the lowest tax rate. So again, I wanted to thank council, town staff, and the audit committee members for all their assistance through the audit process. Kenton Duffett is pleased to report that those financial statements are presented fairly in all concepts of public sector accounting standards.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Council, did anyone have any questions that they wish to provide to our auditor? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I don't know if our auditor can answer all my questions or not, but I noted in the package, in the second part of the package that we got, is a statement concerning the legal fees that we pay. I noticed at the year's end the totals of several lawsuits, some of which the claims are still open. Do you know if any of these have been wrapped up since the audit was finished? Or do you just have the information that you were given there?
I only have the information I was given at that time. I do a sort of a subsequent event check up until nearing the end of our audit testing,
Right.
Which was close to the audit committee date that we had earlier this month. Subsequent to that point in time, I wouldn't have information on whether they've been wrapped up or not.
Okay. Perhaps this one is for the solicitor. Do you know why myself or council was not informed or kept up to date on these legal matters? Example, the M&D Davidson issue notice of action. We've already paid the $25,000 as part of our insurance deductible. I believe that's what's in the report. Open Arms, the issue is a notice of intended action. We've already paid $11,284. The Robinson property, we've paid $26,078, and accounts are being represented by legal for the town, $958 for a grand total of $63,320. I know nothing about M&D Davidson. I know nothing about Open Arms, and I recall that I was told that Open Arms, that was not going to be an issue. $11,000 might seem a pittance to some people, but for me, it is an issue. And I'd like to know why that money was spent, and I'd like to know something on these issues. I think councils should be updated on some of these. I know about the Robinson property. I've heard about the council being represented by the town for legal, but I don't know anything else. And this is a financial matter, and I believe that the council should be aware of this. So can the solicitor explain about this? Because I'm pretty sure our auditor cannot answer those questions.
Councillor Maxwell, we're looking for, I'm going to say, questions for the auditor with regards to the audit, not the details. He is provided with this information from our finance department, and any of these legal actions, further details on them would have to be discussed in camera. So if you could save that for that.
Okay, they are a matter of public record because they are listed in the audit report.
But this is what occurred in the, up until March 31st, 2022.
Right.
So anything that's occurred ongoingly cannot be discussed. And these are purely financial.
I can comment, I certainly can't speak to the details of the case, that's wouldn't be what I would do. But I would say that the role of an auditor would be to make sure that those items are disclosed so discussion could happen.
Right.
So I certainly can't speak to whether they're likely to be solved or
of course you can't.
waived or whatever. But our role as auditors would be to make sure that all relevant disclosures are in your financial statements. So when we recommend that just the matter be noted in the notes of the financial statements. That's our role, so that it can be followed up on and discussed.
And I would thank you for doing that, because these are things that I knew nothing about as a counselor, and I believe that I should, if I'm supposed to be helping to make financial decisions for the town. I see that audit comes up later in our agenda. Would that be an appropriate place to?
The CAO is going to address.
Sure, and so thank you. And so really, I think just there's two pieces. The first part, so this practice of subsequent events and disclosure around those events is a common practice been here in the Kentville when I go back through the financial statements. So this is typically Director Kroll would bring items forward, working with the auditor, and these would be note disclosed as ongoing events, but an attempt to quantify them. I think to the second part, anything, if you note, when we're doing our budget, we allow an allowance for things that would happen to go through insurance. So we've had discussions in the past with regards to the way our deductible works and so on. But if there was any conversations around those ongoing insurance cases or anything that would have to do with a current case that may be before the courts, I think that it would be appropriate for those matters to be brought in camera in order to have a conversation. This is about disclosing that monies were spent. These are items that there are budgeted areas for it, but this is just trying to give a little bit further detail to the end user. As the auditor had said, this is trying to say to the end user what might be the types of things might be in some of these areas if you were a user trying to understand what some of these lines mean. So I think just differentiating between here, it's disclosure, but if there were details around those, because anything that would be ongoing, you'd want to have those as an in-camera conversation.
I understand that. And would I be correct in assuming that council should know about this stuff?
I would say there's budget and line items for these things, and if we have an insurance claim or whatnot that comes forward, those are typically items that operationally are acted upon. But certainly if council is looking for updates on these types of things on a regular basis, we can accommodate that.
I would think that it would be appropriate for council to know about these types of issues, considering we're at $63,000 total right now. And to me, that's not a small amount. And I think that these issues should be discussed. And we should be making some decisions. So, you know, it's really important, and I think perhaps CAO needs to make a note of that, and I would like that noted in the minutes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. We're kind of veered off a little bit. Thanks, Andy, for your presentation. I just want to echo what Councillor Maxwell said, that myself, when I was presented that a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know what half of those items were, and after 2 years here, it's a little bit embarrassing to not know what those matters are. I mean, it is a lot of money, and it's been paid out so far, and whether insurance is going to cover after we spend 25, it doesn't really matter to me. I still like to know what happened and why the taxpayers are paying these. I like to know what's going on. So I think a little more transparency would be great. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. We have a pretty full house here tonight, so I'm just wondering, Andy, if you might speak to the financial condition indicators, or if that's something that,
Sure.
I know that it's more of a provincial and internal thing, but it might be something that
Yep.
you might want to share with the public that
Am I still
is of
on?
interest.
Yeah,
Yep.
you are.
So the province of Nova Scotia, approximately 5 or 6 years ago, perhaps longer, time flies, released a set of indicators that would be applicable to every municipal unit in the province of Nova Scotia. So you're a benchmark, if you will. And they've set certain thresholds, targets that each town or municipal unit should look to achieve. And they've color-coded it like a stoplight. There's red, which is fail. There's yellow, which is you're doing okay. And there's green, which is you clearly achieved these targets or exceeded them. Generally speaking, the town of Kentville, from the initiation of this project, has been one of the more positive towns in terms of results. There was a few years where your operating surpluses were in the yellow. Just the fact that you can't count those restricted assets as a reserve or a surplus, operating reserves, sort of went against you, but you certainly had lots of surplus and reserves. The other one that sort of works against you is a bit of an eye roller, is that your don't let the residents know maybe, your tax rate is technically too low based on the mean income for the geographical area. So the province has set sort of if your income in the area is such, you should charge this for your tax rate, and the town of Kentville is technically a little bit lower than that. You're not red, so no need to act rashly, but you're in the yellow for that one as well. But typically, all of the other indicators for the town of Kentville are green, which is not common, and most towns or municipal units would have some red, certainly some yellow, but they sort of try and achieve better and better results as you go. But town of Kentville does, financially speaking, the results are very strong.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I realize that you have to run. Both of our citizen members of the audit committee are here. If you wish to say something. Susan, Jim, I'll put you on the spot if you wanted to say anything with regards to the process. Thanks, Andy. We'll see you same bad place next year.
Council, my name is Jim Noonan. I've been appointed as citizen representative on the audit committee. And with an investment background, a financial background, curiously, I'd like to see how things are going. The thing that stands out is how incredibly strong the town is financially, how incredibly strong the staff that make up the decision-making process is, how fortunate we are. It is, I've talked about it, that probably my role that would be of benefit to the citizens has nothing to do with audit. That's what an auditor does. It's not what I do. But I can tell you that I would also be, I'd be privileged to tell everybody that we have to be able to let you know just exactly what is going well. There's a lot of things we take for granted, but when you hear about some of the benchmarks to other towns, it's not just Nova Scotia, it's the Maritimes, it's anywhere. Those benchmarks are high standards, and when you turn around and one of them is, you should be raising your taxes more. Now I want you to think about that for a minute. Really, really think about that for a minute. And the town is saying, well, and I guess we could, but we're gonna keep having these things happening for citizens in our town that other towns could only dream of. So it has been a privilege and an eye-opener for me to see incredibly how strong it is. For things going forward, it looks very, very, opportunistic and very hopeful. And
saying that financially it's a great place to be. So what I hope to do going forward is be able to communicate that to you as a fellow citizen. To say, you know, here's, if you get past all the jargon and so on, what does it really mean? Are we in good financial shape? Is there any things that we should be concerned about? Are there opportunities that we might be able to take advantage of going forward? That I'm more than open to be able to share with you at any time. I do have the background to be able to translate some of the numbers, not all the numbers, but the end of the essence of the story, which you can get online. We're in very, very good shape, and feel very fortunate to be a citizen in this town. So that's my moment and comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Susan?
Thank you and good evening, everyone. I guess I don't want to repeat what Jim has said, and I will just, echo his comments. I'm a process person. I like to know that there's policies and procedures and things in place, and that's where I get my comfort. So as a citizen appointee, that's where, I often ask about, those things. Do we have the right processes and policies and procedures in place? Are we meeting those indicators that were referenced, those key financial indicators? So that's where I get my comfort from, is knowing that we have those things in place. We don't just meet them, we surpass the expectations, quite frankly. So our policies, procedures are gold standard. Our best practices, financial best practices, are implemented, and those are the things that we look at and check, because as a citizen, as your co-citizen, I want to be able to stand here with Jim and say, you know what, we feel very confident in the financial statements as they're presented with the auditor's report and with the financial management of the town. So that's our role, and I thank you all for the opportunity. This has been my third year on the committee, and it's a privilege also. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So to those watching and those in the gallery, there will actually be 2 reports that you will find on our website, and it will be under finance. And the first one is a report that Director Kroll puts together. Not too many towns do this type of report, but it's quick and easy, and it's a very easy read. So if you don't want to get into all the numbers, we'll put the highlights for you and put it into perspective. The other is our actual financial statement. Right now they are in draft, and until we make the motions, they will remain in draft. And then once the motions are made and things are signed off, then they will be uploaded. I will also say that you can find any financial statements on our website under finance, and they're very easy to clip on. So please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask with regards to that. So thank you all very much this evening for this presentation. It was a little different than our normal council meeting. So we'll move on to our business arising. The first matter that we have before us is chickens in Kentville. So CAO, you've prepared some documents for us, so could you give council an update, please?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. And so typically is what I would try to do is put a document together for council that kind of gives some different options and some ranges on things. So just 2 weeks ago at the Council Advisory Committee meeting, Council had asked staff to review the policies addressing the keeping of chickens within town limits. Now, back in October of 2021, there was a change to the land use bylaw that was, as part of that presentation to council, staff had suggested that chickens should be taken from from the overall land use bylaw and put under the animal control bylaw. And so technically, what we're doing here is we're catching up to that piece that probably should have happened a little bit quicker. And so the piece that I've supplied to council, and there's highlighted areas so that folks can kind of look at, these are the pieces kind of where we need some decision points. We worked off of, well, actually first I guess we should say we contacted about 4 or 5 other municipalities who had a bylaw related to chickens. And some of the things that we put before council kind of to get some feedback on is things like similar to dogs, should there be some kind of a registration system? So if somebody is going to be putting a chicken coop in with a number of chickens, should they be registering that? Typically, when you have a registration process, you would be looking at some kind of a fee. But also, you would want to look at what's the number of chickens that would be permissible. And so what we found is that there seemed to be that 2 to 4 range seemed to be the number that we saw when we were talking to other municipal units. Some did go farther, and some would look at having, more like 5 or 6. So in that document that council has, kind of has these all outlined, and these are kind of some decision points. In addition, in the briefing note the council has points to some of the development permits and how folks register in Halifax. And so just if someone wanted to do some further reading on some of the things that some other municipal units are doing. So the attached proposal for consideration with some feedback from council, we can take this, finalize the document, and then be able to bring it back to council for first reading with that input.
Excellent. Thank you very much, CAO. So, council, we have been queried on 3 specific questions. Are you each prepared to respond to those this evening and send the results back to staff for amendment of the animal control bylaw? And then they would return a draft to us at the meeting in September. So I would like to query each of you on the three matters, and then we'll go back around and you can, if you have any other considerations that staff should be looking at as they're doing this. So, Deputy Mayor, should they be registered, yes or no?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Should there be a fee, yes or no?
I don't believe so.
How many chickens?
Well, we can go into discussion later, but I would say up to 10.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gerard, should they be registered?
No.
Should there be a fee?
No.
How many chickens?
20.
Councillor Huntley,
No, they shouldn't be registered. No, for a fee. A number of chickens. This is an educated guess, I'll say 10 to 12.
okay? CAO is writing this all down as well.
Okay.
Councillor Maxwell, should they be registered?
Yes.
Should there be a fee?
A minimal fee, yes.
Do you have a number? It's been suggested $30.
I think the same as whatever you register a dog for.
Okay. How many chickens?
2 to 4.
Okay. Councillor York, registered?
No,
Fee?
no.
Chickens?
Minimum 6 with a sliding scale based on plot size,
Okay.
just to, spice it up.
Okay, gotta like spicy. Councillor Zabian, registered?
No register.
Fee?
No fee.
Chickens?
I kind of like what Councillor York just said. I read that some units do that
Yep,
depending upon the lot size. So,
okay, so
yeah.
6 and a
Well,
sliding scale?
yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And I think there should be registration, one time only, the fee, one time only, and 6 chickens. So I will go back around and ask you if you have any additional information that you would like to add, and the CAO has got his fast fingers of fury ready to go. Councillor York, did you want to speak to something?
Just to this, to the chickens.
Okay, so we'll.
Sure if we were miking or roundtable.
We're going to round table first, and then we can mic, if that is what we're looking for. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. So thank you to the CAO and staff for giving us the link to HRM. And so I looked at that, the rules for keeping backyard chickens, the health and safety of them, registering them. So I sort of wanted to tailor it certainly a little bit after that. And they talk about while a permit for a chicken is not required, a development permit is required for an accessory structure. which includes a chicken coop. And if it's less than 20 square meters, only a development permit is required, and if it's more than 20 square meters, a construction permit is required. I am not a specialist in this area, obviously, so I look to fellow councillors and other folks that know more than me on this issue. I don't know how many square feet 10 or 12 chickens, hens should have that's healthy and good for them, but I would say whatever that should be, and I would leave that to the devices of our planning department to come up with that. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have one question for the CAO. Prior to last CAC, how many complaints has the town received about chickens?
So I'm not aware of any formal complaints around chickens.
Thank you.
All right. Councillor Huntley.
I'm good with what I had decided.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Maxwell. Whoops, there.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to clear up misinformation on Facebook post that this was my bylaw, which it absolutely was not. This bylaw was in effect before I even came on council, and I have a copy of it right here. It was in the planning land use bylaw. At the end of my first term, we sat down as a council to look at moving it from the land use bylaw into the animal control bylaw. And here it is right here. And what we decided as a council at that time, we were all good with, and that would include Councillor Gerard, Councillor Savage, and Mayor Snow, and myself, and of course other councillors at that time, because I have my notes here. But we did want to make an amendment, and the amendment was that we were going to not add roosters, and the number of chickens was still 2 to 4. I have written down that we needed to do a new amendment, and that should be coming soon. Of course, something happened to it. I don't know what happened to it, but it disappeared. And so we haven't had one for a little bit of time. Now, Councillor Gerard asked, have there been any formal complaints? Well, people in Kentville, the question was asked, are there any formal complaints? The answer is, there wasn't any formal complaints, but I have had some as a councillor. Because in my area where I live, there are 3 coops, and people are upset about the noise of the rooster, and they are also upset about seeing rats. And I personally have lived in my home for the majority of my life, and I've never, ever seen a rat. And starting in last fall, I saw one just before the snow came. And since then, this summer, I've seen 2 now on my property. My neighbors are complaining about rats that they've never seen before in their garages, and people are quite upset. And now if I go up to the north end of Kentville, close to King's Tech, there's another coop up there where the owner lets the chickens run free. And I am getting complaints about rats up there as well. Now, they've always had some field mice, but never rats. So I think we need to really look very closely at this bylaw, because we are not HRM, and we need to look at the density and space between homes. That's important. And I can understand people wanting some chickens and some hens to supplement their eggs, but what's next? I need a cow to give me milk. I need a hog to give me my
Councillor
pork.
Maxwell, please.
Okay,
I'm asking for additional
Okay, well, I'm
information.
giving you additional information here. So those complaints those are legitimate complaints. And I think it's important that we take a look at that. We have some densely populated subdivisions in our town, where if you start putting chickens in the backyard of, even half of the houses, and we're starting to look at 10, 12 chickens, 20 chickens in the backyard, I mean, we're into production. When you're up that high, you're not doing personal use, you're doing production. And I think we should be supporting the chicken growers in our area. And I think we should be concerned about the fact that veterinarians don't look at these flocks, and there are diseases that spread in flocks. And we're a town. We're not the county. We're not the county of kings. And this bylaw was in effect right up until somebody came to me and said, I looked at that bylaw before and I could find it on our website, but now it's gone and I don't know where to find it. And if the people who had chickens came to the town of Kentville and asked us what our regulations were, we would have discovered that mistake a heck of a lot earlier. And so I think, in all honesty, they've probably been looking at the County of Kings regulations and instead of coming to the town of Kentville. But I think this is something that, we don't need to snicker about, or we shouldn't be snickering about. This is a real issue that is going to and could affect many of our residents within this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor York.
Thank you. So my understanding of people who keep chickens in their yards is not typically done as pets, and studies have shown that that indicate that a family of 4 will need at least 6 chickens to offset their egg production. So I would like to see the limit be 6, at least to sort of allow for families to be able to do that. I would also like to see the limit be a firm limit and not a 2 to 4, or whatever the number is. If it's a limit, it's a limit. Secondly, I would hesitate to put any restrictions on how people make a meager income off of their chickens. So restricting the sale of eggs and things seems to be an overcomplication from a municipal standpoint when there are already in existence provincial regulations that exist. It seems to be a duplication, and it does also seem to be an unnecessary step by the municipality, in my view, to dictate how people can offset their income or increase their barters or however they exchange their goods. I would agree that production is probably not what people aim for in their backyards or what the town of Kentville would want to see in the yards of residents. However, I do think it's important that people be able to offset their family's needs, especially given the current climate of inflation and all the other things. So if as a municipality we can try and alleviate some of those worries and stresses, then I think we would be responsible to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Zabia.
Thank you. This is a little touchy subject, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers tonight. I know I remember back when I was about 10, my father took me to Lebanon for the first time, and there was roosters everywhere. So every morning around 4:45, I got woken up by that rooster. So I remember, the feeling of the rooster, and it just became routine, and you become immune to it after a while. But I went out and I reached out to the municipality of West Hants, and they have a very different setup. They're a county, but they have urban growth areas where they don't allow any livestock at all. So some areas like Falmouth, because it's urban and it's upcoming and growing, you're not allowed to have them. And then you go in, oddly enough, you can go downtown Windsor, I guess, and you can have chickens. When they amalgamated, they had old bylaws and they didn't mesh. So I'm going to stick with what I said. I think people need to understand, though, too, and I know there was a lot of flurry on Facebook that, if you're a chicken grower and you're feeding your kids that way, I think it's great. I'd love to do it, too. But you got to imagine that the neighbor may have a problem with it, too, so it's a flip, right? There's got to be a compromise here where everybody's happy, and I think we can come to that resolution, hopefully. So thank you.
Thank you. When we come to whatever end we arrive at for the bylaw, I would like to see grandfathering for anyone who currently has a setup, that they don't have to wring any necks on the first day that the new bylaw comes in. However, they can't replace any that are over the limit. So they get to live out their natural life. However, for roosters, again, they get to live out their natural life, but we don't put any more in. So that's our round table. Did anyone else have any other comments that they thought the CAO? You will have lots of time to debate this as it comes out. When we will see a draft at, will we see it for CAC or, okay, so we will see it at CAC in September. Any correspondence that comes in on this matter will be put in the chicken file, and you will have it at your access to be able to assist in your decision making. All right, so let's move right along to our electrical vehicle charging follow-up. And CAO, I'll hand that one off to you as well.
Thank you very much. So, council at our last CAC meeting was looking for some further clarity, particularly around what would the costs be associated with putting essentially a charge or a fee in place with regards to the EV charging station. So, kind of there's two pieces here. The existing station that is down at the rink is not considered a smart charging station. So for us to adjust that station to some kind of a fee for use, there's about a $10,000 change we would need to make to that station so that effectively we could put a point of sale device in place that then would be able to communicate via the internet so we could charge. However, the new charging station, which we've been chatting about, is already smart enabled. So there is no cost, no fee. The ability for that station to communicate to the Wi-Fi here and thus utilize that to charge out an hourly rate or a daily rate or wherever folks want to do it is there. So basically the ability to set a rate for the new one would have no implications. There's no cost to that. However, the old one would require an overhaul of that station in order to make that work. Basically the rate, and so our cost recovery rate, the one we've kind of been working with, is about that $1.50 an hour rate. So if council's purview was to do that with the new one, that can be done at installation. If council was looking to make a fee per hour or however they were going to do with the existing station, we'd have to do a little bit of work and get a firmer price, but ballpark, we know that would probably be around 10,000.
Thank you, CAO. So based on this recommendation, drafted a motion for council's consideration that council direct the CAO to set the charging rate on the new EV charger as detailed in the attached report, and further that the first generation EV charger at Memorial Arena remain as installed but should be replaced when further grant opportunities are presented. If someone could move that, please. Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council direct the CAO to set the charging rate on the new EV charger as detailed in the attached report, and further that the first generation EV charger at Memorial Arena remain as installed but should be replaced when further grant opportunities are presented. Discussion, Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. To the CAO in regards to the charger at the rink. There may be a simpler way to do that. I know in, and I don't mean to oversimplify it, but in the rental laundry world, they have, instead of having the coin op directly connected to the washer or the dryer, they have, it's just a power box. and the appliances plug into the power box, and the power box does not allow power through until somebody drops $1.50 in or whatever. So there could be something cheaper for that in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. So directing the CAO to set the charging rate on the new EV charger, that just means the charging rate availability is there, correct? Not that we start charging people right from the onset. Is that my understanding with respect to the motion? Thank you.
Right, so as I understand it, so what was originally put before council was no charge.
Correct.
And so if council's purview was to charge, we would do that from day one. So if council wished to do cost recovery on the electrical side of it, in which we kind of are proposing it's about $1.50 an hour, then we would suggest that we would activate that at the beginning when the new station is set up. The existing station would need an upgrade, barring, I recognize Councilor Girard just put an option out, but based on the advice we have, we would have to do an overhaul to that. So that station at this time, we wouldn't be doing anything. It would be the new station, we would activate the pay feature.
So we'll discuss the pay feature upon receipt of the charger.
Certainly I can narrow it down a little bit more, but ballpark, it would probably be in that $1.50 range.
No, sorry. Have we decided as
Oh.
it, sorry. Yeah.
I guess we didn't do that.
No,
Start there.
correct.
So the first motion is, do we want the new one?
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is that, yes, I mean, if, when the new charger goes in and having the ability to charge, that's one thing, but are we going to commence charging right on the onset? And,
Right.
and I don't know that we've had that conversation, and perhaps it's
Okay.
not a conversation for this evening, and it can take place at a later date when we're in receipt of the equipment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor York.
Thank you. My comment was in line with Deputy Mayor Savage's, that this machine was acquired through a grant, and I would be curious to know if there are any qualifiers in the grant that would allow us to, or that require us not to charge. I'm not sure if it was awarded based on specific criteria or not, and that might be something we need to investigate lest the grant become null and void.
CAO, you can take that.
Certainly, to my knowledge, that wasn't part of the requirement, but I certainly am happy to do a follow-up on that.
Please, thank you.
So perhaps we should be tabling this motion until we have that further information, rather than making a motion that we're just going to remove at another time. Councillor Zabian, Councillor Girard, are you open to tabling this? You're the mover and the seconder, so are you open to tabling this motion until we have further information on it? Councillor Zabian?
Well, what is the installation timeline?
Right now, I know that we're looking at the fall. The first step in all that is getting the power to a certain spot, and then ordering in the equipment. So I believe the equipment itself was on a September-ish timeline for that to come in. So certainly this conversation in September would happen before it's activated.
That's fine then.
All right, so all those in favor of tabling this discussion until we have further information at our September meeting? All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. So we will table the electric vehicle discussion. All right, our next item is the Community Physician Navigator Program. Again, CAO, handing off to you on this one.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. So this conversation came out of a presentation had been made to council with regards to the Physician Community Navigator, and support was sought for the work that they do. A short briefing note was put together for council, It doesn't really fit in our grants process because of the limits on the grant and the application process. So where this was an official request as part of a presentation to council, we wanted to bring it back for council to decide if they were going to support it and to what level. The Navigator positions, which really help with the recruitment of doctors, but more specifically has to do with the doctor and the ability then for them to fit in the community, and so supporting them in a number of ways. The Physician Navigator, Community Navigators program, the request for the town of Kentville was for $8,000. Currently, County of Kings provides 15 and the town of Wolfville 5. In the 22-23 budget, there wasn't a line allocated for this. And I believe we had our presentation for this in April, if my memory is correct. So for council's consideration, if council is interested in supporting this initiative, and then if to what extent.
All right, thank you very much, CAO. So I will go around the horseshoe and ask you for a number. So you've heard that the town of Wolfville was 5,000, County of Kings is 15,000, and they've asked town of Kentville for 8,000, and then we'll put a motion on the floor and for discussion. Do we need to get that? Okay. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You just want my number and
Yeah, just your
discussion
number, and
after.
then we'll get a motion on the floor, and then we'll
Yep.
have the discussion.
8,000.
Okay? Councillor Gerard.
I'm gonna say the same as last year, but I have questions, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Huntley.
I'm gonna say 5,000.
Okay. Councillor Maxwell.
5,000?
Thank you. Councillor York.
5,000.
Councillor Zabian.
3,000.
And I say 5,000. So our motion would read that council approve funding of the Community Physician Navigator Program in the amount of 5,000s have it overwhelmingly. Further, that council authorize this extra expenditure to the 2022-2023 approved operating budget. If someone could move that, please. Deputy Mayor, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Maxwell, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve funding of the Community Physician Navigator Program in the amount of $5,000, and further, that council authorize this extra expenditure to the 2022-2023 approved operating budget. Is there any discussion on this matter? Councillor Gerard.
To the CAO, I guess, or anyone that can actually answer the question, what has the benefit been so far? And I think it's been 2 years or 3 years they've had this position through Valley Health or Capital Health?
To my knowledge, I believe you're correct. I think it's 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure the duration though.
But have we seen benefits from it, I guess is my question. I don't mind spending the money as long as the money's working.
The only information I would have was what we received in our presentation in April, so I can't speak to specifics of that.
Okay, thank you.
I think one of the things, so you realize this is really talking or speaking to the people who are here doing the residency program. And this residency program has been very, very successful here in the one that's done at Valley Regional. There was 2 years ago, out of 28 residents, 26 had stayed in Nova Scotia, and there was only 2 of them who were not in the Valley. And the 2 people who left, one was from Ontario and one was from British Columbia, and they were going home. They had no intention of staying. I mean, we couldn't have paid them enough. They were not staying here, they were going to their home provinces. So this residency program is very, very well done. And this, I'm going to say, is something additional, so that, you know, they're taking them around and showing them our communities. And the thing with the residents is that they work in all the different locations in the Annapolis Valley, and they're paired with various doctors. So it's a really good program that we have here. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you. Just so everybody's clear, I think from what I understood of this, the few times that we've been presented, they don't recruit residents. They just, when they come here, they help facilitate them into the valley and whatever have you. And I think if I remember, the money that they collect from the county and from Wolfville is to pay the salary of the person who does that. I asked this before, and I don't think I got a direct answer, and I'm going to jump on Councillor Gerard's question. It would really be nice to know how many residents stayed, just even last year. I don't have to go back 2 years ago. 8,000, 5,000. I know it's, you know, in the grand scheme of things in here, it may look like coin, but it's not. It's money that could be spent somewhere else or helping somebody. So I'm not knocking the program. I'm sure that there's a lot of perks to it, but I really would like to know if we're getting any bang for a buck out of it, and that would be important to me. So it just, and I'm a little confused tonight. I didn't know we agreed to do this. We kind of jumped the wagon when you went around and asked for numbers, so I wasn't sure if we even had a debate whether we were going to indulge this or not.
We have,
Thank you.
this is what we're doing now.
Right.
So with the motion on the floor.
Okay.
When you vote, you're voting to
Okay.
do this or not do
Okay.
this. And so you have spoken now. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. So I know, just from the information that I have about the program and talking with Brianna about it, and I mean, she made her presentation now, I believe it was back in maybe March or April. So it's been a bit since we've had that information, but I know that she does work directly with the coordinator, Carmen Jakowski, for the Southwest Nova region, I think she has. And it's really about that attraction piece. It's really about that retention piece. It's really about integrating, you know, if they have children, into the community and seeing what the opportunities are, and seeing the communities and the housing that's available, and all the opportunities that we have here. So I like the program. It's nice to see, you know, the town of Wolfville be involved, and the municipality of the County of the Kings. That gives me great comfort to be able to support it. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Oh, thank you. I brought this up last time we were looking at this issue, and I'll state it again, although, anyway, I feel very strongly that the province of Nova Scotia has the responsibility for healthcare. And I believe that passing this over to the municipalities is an unfair practice. However, saying that, I realize that there are many people in Nova Scotia and in the Annapolis Valley and in our town that don't have family doctors. And obviously, the provincial government is dropping the ball on this, and I feel that any little bit that we can do perhaps to help out with that, I think it is important. However, it does bother me that this healthcare is a provincial responsibility, and it's being downloaded on municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this matter? So, Councillor Zabian, when I said that 26 out of 28, that was several years, because I think when the program first started, we had 4, and then we had 5, and I think now we're up to 6. But these numbers, and there's really a good detailed part on the NSHA website for recruiting and for the residence program. So I will also add my comments to this. Much like my colleague has just said, doctor recruitment is the job of the province, and they do have full-time recruiters. However, this position was put in place by the former Liberal government, and they used community money rather than using healthcare dollars to put these positions in. And then they basically left it high and dry and expected the community to pick up the left behind. So yes, in fact, we are paying the wages of an employee who is supporting a provincial mandate. So thank you. So are we ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the funding of the Community Physician Navigator program in the amount of $5,000, and further that council authorize this extra expenditure to the 2022-2023 approved operating budget.
My first vote.
Voting is now open. All right. Okay. So voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. All right, our next matter is the Noise Bylaw. Now, you'll recall we have seen this numerous times, and the changes that were made with regards to sound levels, and as well to ensure that this was an enforceable bylaw, have been made, and they are highlighted in the document that you were provided with. So CAO Troke, was there anything that you want to update with regards to this before we consider first reading?
No, I just think one quick thing. First, I'd like to thank the solicitor for providing his feedback on this. And really, this is kind of, and you see the term in here, talking about prohibitions. So you've kind of got daytime, nighttime. One of the other pieces for us was that often you would get asked for exemptions because of construction or whatnot. So we wanted to make sure there's a process for someone to come forward, but also that within that, understand that what are your mitigations to try and reduce any noise. So it's become a much more complete document than it was before. And so some of it being definitional, but mostly giving that ability if you get the request and it's going to be something that there is going to be noise from that activity, the ability then to say, well, how are you going to be mitigating that ability, or even to deny it should they not be able to come forward with a reasonable approach.
Thank you, CAO. So our motion would be that council give first reading to the noise bylaw and further consideration for second reading at the September 26th, 2022 council meeting. Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council give first reading to the noise bylaw and further consideration for second reading at the September 26, 2022 council meeting. Is there any discussion on this matter? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. I have just one question and I have one comment, but I'll start with the comment first. I really, really like under Section 3 prohibitions with respect to the decibel level prohibitions. I like that there's a differentiation there between outdoors and indoors. So thank you to the solicitor for that. I think that's going to be very helpful on a go-forward basis. I had just a question around some clarification with respect to 2.16, 2.16.2, point of reception, meaning the location of a premises of a person where the sound is originating from other than those premises is received, and more particularly is. The located at least 1.2 meters above the surface of the ground or floor, could either the CAO or the solicitor explain that a little better to me or clarify that a little bit more for me? And I apologize if I'm the only one that needs it clarified, but I do.
Sorry, thank you. So one of the pieces is obviously that you would be holding the measuring device essentially at a consistent level. So if you recall, we had a discussion around making sure you're not near a building because noise can bounce off of a building, but also just basically from a definitional perspective that it's the person taking the measurement essentially would be holding it approximately chest high,
Okay.
and that you're attempting to be in a direct line from the item that you're trying to measure.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further on that? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to give first reading to the noise bylaw and further consideration for second reading at the September 26, 2022 council meeting. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. Our next matter is the Heritage Bylaws. So we were provided with a draft bylaw at our last meeting, and members of council were provided with an opportunity to provide feedback into the CAO, and one of the items here that was feedback is that the Heritage Bylaw should be designed to honor and protect the built heritage of our town. And the first step should be to hold the draft bylaw in abeyance, and a heritage committee should be established immediately. It should be composed of local experts, including historians, architects, and longtime residents, no less than 6 citizens, and not necessarily from Kentville if they bring a specific expertise. They should be tasked to review the inventory of buildings, landmarks, and streetscapes, establish a scoring mechanism, and draft a bylaw that encompasses the necessary elements to protect our built heritage. And although I didn't add it to this document, CAO, I thought of some of the folks that live in our town, and I'm going to say that the first name that came to mind, and I haven't talked to any of these people, so if you're hearing your name, this is just my musing on a piece of paper. But I thought Louis Comeau knows just about everything and has probably a photo of almost everything that's occurred since there were cameras in our town. And Alan Lynch is a wealth of information. Ed Coleman, Gary Cleveland, you never have a conversation with Gary without getting something about town of Kentville. I think we should have somebody from the museum because that brings that level of expertise. And I'm afraid I don't know any architects, so if we knew some architects, but I think we have some amazing people that could put a bylaw together for us that is what we need for our stuff, rather than making a bylaw and then trying to get a committee to implement it and it have to change, because the reality is that our bylaw does become the law. And I just think we should have the right law to start with, rather than going through the motions of doing it. And I recommend that we do it right away. CAO, did you have anything else to add, or anything that came in from any other venue?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
Okay, okay. So I would, I see Councillor Maxwell, you have your,
Yes, thank you. I would just like to say about the bylaw, I agree with what is written here. I think the mayor has the right idea that the committee should be the one that works on drafting. I would like to add a name to your list, though. I believe Cyril White knows probably more about railway history than anybody else in the town except for Louis Comeau. So I think we have to recognize that fact, and just wanted to make sure his name is added to that list. There are many people in Kentville who could be on this committee, so I'm hoping that they will make themselves and they're known to us. Thank you.
excellent, thank you. Councillor Gerard?
Thank you, Worship. After reading the proposed proposition for the Heritage Bylaw, I took it, and I think that's what I read, and I don't think it's been changed, that it's primarily the commercial downtown core. Would there be any, would there be consideration to say, because there's a lot of old homes, and in my mind, if you want to preserve a heritage property, I don't care whether it's in the downtown core or whether it's, on the west end, the east end, whatever. So I think maybe when the committee gets up and running, that should be something also, especially if it's going to be not necessarily voluntary and there could be incentives involved. But I think, a heritage property is a heritage property. Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess I did not differentiate between commercial and residence. I just saw the whole town and built, our built heritage, and as well, the landmarks and streetscapes. Because if you've ever done the Ghost Walk, those special places that we've walked about, and perhaps it's time that we honor those spots as well, even though there may be nothing left there other than the memory of a spot. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. So is the idea with this, though, also that this committee, once it's struck, that they won't actually be starting with a blank sheet? They'll be given, sort of the terms of reference, those sorts of things, and what some other municipality bylaws look like, and then sort of put some of their own spins and tweaks on it. That's kind of the idea?
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So CAO, do you have enough information to go forth and create a committee?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So our next item is the Police Commission bylaw. And CAO, did you want to provide us with any feedback or information on this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Snow. So, the Board of Police Commissioners had put together a proposed bylaw, had some feedback on a few areas that just kind of compressed the language, particularly where some of the language was essentially directly out of the Police Act, so referencing the Police Act in those areas. Most specifically, though, I would go to, there's a change in Section 5, which basically the Police Act had a different type of appointment process than the town's policy G57. And so to be consistent with the other committees, the recommendation would be that we would follow the policy that the town uses for the other committees. The other piece that I would point to is that just a little bit of the language around calling the meetings and just when the meetings would occur. There was just some language changes around essentially that there would be breaks during the run of the year. So for example, in August, no committee meeting might occur. There was just a little bit of language change there. So the document maybe shrank by about a half a page. And some of that was just around, instead of things like the the appointments of resident members, having a spelled out section following that of like G57, and in other areas where the Police Act was kind of reiterated, just references made to follow the specific sections of the Police Act.
Excellent, thank you, CAO. So our motion would be that council give first reading to the Board of Police Commissioners bylaw and further consideration for second reading at the September 26, 2022 council meeting. Someone could move that, please? Councillor York, thank you. And for the second, Councillor Huntley, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council give first reading to the Board of Police Commissioners bylaw and further consideration for second reading at the September 26, 2022 council meeting. Is there any discussion on this matter? Councillor Maxwell?
Thank you. I guess I'm going to speak as councillor and as a vice chair of the Police Commission. I've talked to several members of the Police Commission, and basically what they're telling me is this bylaw does not look like the same document that they approved as the Police Commission. There are changes to the length of term for citizen members of the Commission, as well as the recommendation concerning having a citizen in the position of chair. What the Commission would like to know is who made those changes without getting the reasons why they were there in the first place. I think that's a question that the Commission would like to have answered. And I'll respond to whatever that answer is in a minute.
Sure. So first of all, thank you. So one of the things, as you recall, what the commission wanted to do was say that the chair couldn't be a committee, a town-appointed member. And so that actually means the Police Act. The Police Act does not say that the person who's head of the committee must be a citizen or whatnot. So it had to change so that there was no restriction on that. And what then the subsequent revision to that was a recommendation made within a bylaw. And of course, a recommendation really doesn't exist within a bylaw. It's something that from a policy perspective, you could say, or a wish, but the bylaw itself would not give any authority if you had language there that actually contravened the act. So we had to stick with what the act was. The second part, though, with regards to the terms and whatnot, the feedback I had is that, this is different than what we see other committees, so why wouldn't we follow G57? So that's solely the two reasons for those two items.
Okay, thank you. The Police Commission is to be independent of the town other than financial, and the Police Commission follows the Police Act. The town is not supposed to govern the Police Commission. The Commission wanted a citizen chair, so there is no conflict with the town. The previous chair from the council did not keep the commission members informed and did not present the budget to the commission for review prior to the budget going to council for their approval. This chair was reported to the Department of Justice by the Department of Justice representative, and so on commission we have a Department of Justice representative who is appointed by the Department of Justice. I feel, and I know the commission feels, that we do not need this type of leadership and interference on the Police Commission. As for the terms, the length of terms, the commission wanted to make the length of terms of office for citizens for 3 years to line up with that Department of Justice position. The Department of Justice position is for 3 years. Otherwise, we have people coming in and out of the commission every couple of years, and that provides no time for learning and no time for consistency. And what the Police Commission is looking for all over the province, so the different police commissions, they're looking for experienced people. So they want the people that are sitting on the police commissions to know as much about policing as possible. So when you're having people jumping in and jumping out of the police commission on a fairly regular basis, you lose that experienced time. Halifax is already exploring lengthening the terms for their commission members, as are other municipalities within the province. What we're going to see is big changes coming in policing in this province. And so longer terms are going to be very important so that people on the commissions have some kind of idea of what is going on, so that there's consistency going on within the police commission, and there is experience so that they can make good, solid decisions. I guess what the commission would like to know is can these two issues be reinstated the way that the commission would like to see them in that police bylaw? Thank you.
So at this moment in time, any of the committees, these are all committees of council. So it is council's purview as to what they want them to look like or how they would run. So what you have in front of you is just feedback. If council's decision is to do something different, that's council's decision. But ultimately, that's why the bylaw would come here, is what does council want it to be?
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. When this bylaw was being looked at, were other like bylaws looked at? Like, for example, where they have other police forces, like in Bridgewater, places like that?
So I had an opportunity to go to a police commission meeting where I brought some notes to the commission. I know the commission itself had discussion. I know the police chief was actively involved in that discussion. So I can't speak to where the commission went with their conversations.
To get the information.
I believe the basis was there was a draft that looked largely at the older bylaw, and then there was some discussion and feedback sought. So, you know, the feedback that I would have given to that were just things that I saw that would be my general comments if I was reviewing the bylaw. But I would also say that I believe, and I'll have to defer to the committee, but I believe the police chief also provided some of his feedback to the group as well.
Okay, because I think that's important, and I know Councillor York also sits on the police commission, and I've never had the pleasure of serving on that particular committee of council. So it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit more difficult for some of us around the carousel that have not sat on that committee before. So perhaps Councillor York might speak to it as well. I'm not sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor York.
Thank you. I will say that what CAO Choke said is correct, in that we had a bylaw that was previously drafted and we went through and revised as a commission. The commission went over a couple of meetings, if I remember correctly, going back and forth with edits and revisions. It was sent to CAO Choke, who had his suggestions, and we had a meeting together where he presented your suggestions as well. And then the police commission as a whole sent back and reviewed those suggested revisions. We sent back our final draft, which is what you see, which was what was sent to CAO Choke, who my understanding is cleaned up some of the redundancies between the language in the Police Act and what was written, and perhaps contradictions. Sorry, if I may also take this opportunity to ask a question. The contradiction of the Police Act stating what then happens if we create a bylaw that contradicts the Police Act?
The Police Act will always trump.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I also had an opportunity to review this, and I just want to remind council that bylaws are, I'm going to say, the highest order that we have as a council to make law, and that it is our responsibility to make those laws. It is not the committees or commissions. They make recommendations to us, and you know, as changes go, it needs some consistency, especially when if you think about it, we have bylaws are our highest, and then we have policies, and our next order is our motions or our resolutions. So those three sets form the basis of our governance, and consistency as we go from policy to bylaw is very important. And so some of those recommendations came through that. And we are legislated to make committees and to make policy and to make bylaws. Councillor Maxwell, go ahead.
Thank you. I think that the police commissions are supposed to be an arm's length away from the town government. That's why they're governed by the Police Act. So we're not supposed to have that close of a relationship with the police commission. The police commission has its own act, and they follow their own act and they run their own meetings. I think that what we're trying to do is maintain some control over the police commission, and that's not the way that the police commissions are supposed to be set up. And I think we're making a big mistake by continuing to do that. We've already seen, there's already been an issue with the police commission, and I think that us trying to exert control over a body that we're supposed to have arm's length control of, I think is wrong. If we're going to start telling the commission what to do, then why bother having a commission in the first place? That's my personal feeling. I believe in what the commission has asked for us to do. The commission is disappointed that these changes are not there. And so I probably will not be supporting this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on this? So the motion is that it's been moved in second, or are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to give first reading to the Board of Police Commissioners bylaw and further consideration for second reading at the September 26, 2022 council meeting. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. All right, our next item is from our recommendations from CAC, and Councillor Zabian is reading that one.
You know what? I don't have them, all of them in front of me. Just hold on a second. You got them there? All right. At the July 11th, 2022 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, Becca Green Lapierre and Heather Morse from the Kings County Community Food Council gave a presentation about healthy foods in schools. They asked that Council endorse their initiative. The Food Council is a member of the Coalition for Healthy School Food, a network of over 190 members across Canada advocating for a universal cost-shared, healthy Canada-wide school program. In Nova Scotia, the towns of Berwick, Wolfville, and Annapolis Royal, and the municipalities of Kings and Halifax, as well as 25 community health boards, and a number of nonprofit groups have endorsed the Coalition for Healthy School Food. The Food Council has been a strong supporter of the Kings County Academy transition from a contracted food service provider to a parent-teacher association-run cafeteria. At the June meeting of CAC, the Kings County Community Food Council asked the town of Kentville to endorse the Coalition for Healthy School Food. By signing up as an endorser, the town will add its support for this important national initiative. Thank you.
And you're moving that?
Yes, so moved.
Thank you. So the motion is that council endorse the Coalition of Healthy School Food as requested by Kings County Community Food Council, and it's been moved by Councillor Zavian. A second. Thank you, Councillor Gerard. It has been moved and seconded that council endorse the Coalition of Healthy School Food as requested by Kings County Community Food Council. Is there any discussion on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to endorse the Coalition of Healthy School Food as requested by Kings County Community Food Council. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. And CAO, you will follow up with I guess we should probably have something on our Facebook page and that, and then I think we have to sign up on the website.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, thank you. All right, next item is our councillor reports, and Councillor Gerard, you're first up.
With that segue, as luck would have it, I had no meeting scheduled. Joint Fire was not scheduled, and Valley Waste has been disbanded to let smarter people than I take the reins on running it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was a light month for meetings. But I had a Diversity Kings County. Again, they talked a lot about the Pride Month, equity inclusion, public mural project. But one of the things I did have on the side of that after that meeting was I met with a counselor from Kings County, and I wanted to discuss how do we actually take something from the diversity meeting and bring it to an importance of Kentville. It was a good discussion, and if anybody wants to know about it, I can do a report on it, but it's ongoing for short. Valley Rent LLC, we talked about the budget, the business plan, IMSA working group, and Board of Chairs update. Into anything else, all I did was a synopsis of it, and I had 3 committee meetings based on economic development, public transportation, door-to-door, and diversity, and 11 other meetings, housing, healthcare, agriculture, nonprofits, and economic growth.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. First thing, I omitted putting this into my written report, and I regret that. I want to add the bursary recipients to my report. It's time to announce the bursary recipients. So the recipients of our $500 bursaries were Michaela Boutelier, Nora Kaiser, and Camden Pulsifer. And all those are students at Northeast Kings Education Center, fantastic students, wonderful grades, very active in the community, and heading on to careers that are going to, of course, benefit not just themselves, but the communities that they settle in. So the committee was very proud to award those bursaries. The Nola Folker Hill Award went to Claire Zettler. That is a $1,500 bursary, I do believe, and just a top student, wonderful student heading into the medical field. And I think the Hill family and Nola watching down on us would be very, very proud to see that award go to Claire Zettler. So congratulations to all those bursary recipients, and I'm sorry I omitted it from my report. I was busy doing my report. I asked about letters and so on that we have received, and anyway, that got shoved off to the side. So we did get a letter from Sarah White, who did ask us to have it read, and I know that our policy has been lately just to summarize, but I do have this time available to me, and so I will read this letter. And we might want to, as a council, re-vote on this. I know that one of our councils has flipped in their decision, so it might be something we want to do soon. Thank you to the councillors who responded in writing and supplied me with a copy of Policy G70 as per my request in my correspondence of June 2022. Neither Mayor Snow nor Town Clerk Troke acknowledged or responded to my correspondence. I will follow up my June correspondence questions in the future.
Councillor Maxwell?
Following your month
Councillor
of
Maxwell?
August recess, I want to make it clear that...
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
We have policy. We have a vote of council on September of 2021 where letters would only be summarized.
Well...
Please continue with your report.
This has been a tough week for me, very tough week. We've received some correspondence that, just upsets me. And I'm going to use this time to say a few things. When I ran for council, I never expected to be demeaned by members of council. I never expected to have my lack of legal knowledge used to make me feel like I'm being silenced. I never expected to feel threatened legally as often as I have since I joined this council. I've never expected to be attacked publicly in this chamber and on Facebook. And I never expected to be guided into making certain decisions. I felt I was capable of doing that. All this has happened to me through all the many years that I've been on this council. And I can honestly say I'm fed up with what I feel like, and this is just me speaking, is becoming one cover-up after the other. I want a copy of the NDA I signed, as I now know that when I sign something, I should be given a copy. Legally, that's what should happen. I want this by the end of the week. I will be seeing my own lawyer for advice on what I can and cannot say publicly, as I no longer trust anyone around this horseshoe, including in advisory roles, except for Councillor Zabian. I want to tell the staff of the town of Kentville that I am sorry that I was and am part of a council that may not be protecting your human rights. I will do my best to get to the bottom of everything after I consulted my own legal counsel. I want to make sure the public knows that I will do whatever I can to be transparent and answer your excellent questions, again, after consulting my own legal counsel. Thank you.
Order. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Same as the other councillors, the last meeting attended was June 27th and CAC was July the 11th. July the 8th was the Kentville Inclusion and Access Advisory Committee, where we were provided with a town hall update, and King's Transit General Manager Michael did an update, an excellent update actually, on King's Transit Authority and what they're doing to accommodate folks with differences. I just want to say that this committee's committed to its work, and I find at each meeting I learn more and more about inclusion, accessibility, and the town hall and staff should be commended for the work that they're doing to make Kentville a more welcoming community. July the 11th was the audit committee meeting, and as you heard there tonight, the auditor was quite pleased with our 2021-2022 year end. He confirmed and reiterated that council are the stewards of the town's money and that we have been very transparent in all aspects of the financials. We have an excellent liquidity ratio at 3.2 to 1, which will generate us positive financial condition indicators, as he talked about tonight. We have an overall surplus just under 600,000, not including our restricted assets, and that we're enjoying a growing tax base year over year, which is very, very, very encouraging. And I think it was actually Andy tonight that talked about the tax rate as a percentage of the annual median income, which is low, which is certainly helpful to our community at large. July 3rd, we're not on the 30th yet, was Investment Advisory Committee, where we have a market value in our fund of just north of 13 million. Our weighted money average is a net of negative 4.9, but when we bench that against the balanced income CAD indices, it's minus 11.38. So we're doing fairly well. We're holding our own. So in spite of the fact that we have a revised investment policy statement, we're really only dipping our toes into the water at this point with a couple of different funds that represent some equities. But rather, we're starting to have conversations around doing some bonds with a ladder type of approach that would certainly both preserve our capital while growing the portfolio at the same time. KBC was July 14th, looking at, there was some talk at KBC around a new agreement with KBC and looking at some discussions on moving forward with an escalation type of an agreement, but more to come on that. There was a promotions update. We had our mural festival, which just took place this past weekend, and I know probably most people in the gallery here and around the Horseshoe have seen those murals, and they're absolutely incredible. There was some discussion around the comfort station location, the media campaign, and I just also want to say about KBC certainly has their finger on the pulse with respect to our business community, and I couldn't be more pleased with the progress they're making. July the 18th is REMO, which I chair, REMAC committee membership update. We talked about mutual aid agreements, COVID-19 update, hurricane update for the 2022 season. Also VPR, which is the Vulnerable Persons Registry, and I would encourage anybody who is here tonight or who is watching tonight, if you are a vulnerable person or of vulnerable persons, to please register with that. We talked about REMO social media, and I know I think all of us around this Horseshoe certainly share REMO social media, and if there's heat waves or anything like that, or upcoming storms or COVID updates, we can certainly share those with the public. And there was some talk about training and exercises. More to come on that in September. July the 20th was Kentville Water Commission and Source Water Protection, and Kentville Water Commission. We had updates from Director Bell on both committees, on the wellfield reports, the water reports, the planning report. There was nil, and then we had the review of the SWP plan. We had a financial report on the operating fund. Everything is on par. We have a new well coming in, which is nice to hear. That's more growth happening in the town of Kentville, so that's a real positive thing. Tenders are going out soon. There will be an 8th well, which will provide obviously for future growth, as I just noted, in more capacity. And that's pretty much it for my committees. On June the 24th, met with a Kentville citizen. And July the 16th, of course, I received the correspondence from Cyril White, citizen in town. And June the 23rd, I attended the Regional Enterprise Network AGM. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor York.
Thank you. As noted with other councillors, I've attended all those meetings. I will hit the committees that haven't been discussed yet. So we had, with the multi-purpose facility feasibility group, the review crew, which consisted of myself, Director Bedingfield, Parks and Recreation Manager Langell, and CAO Troke. We met, reviewed the document, made some suggestions, and sent them along to the committee as a whole. We will be meeting at some point this summer to discuss all of the suggestions made to the document. So that'll be up next. The AVRL, or the Annapolis Valley Regional Library rather, have finished or completed rather their annual report, and I see that's actually in correspondence. But it's been a banner year again for the AVRL. They were doing wonderful work, engaging with the community and working on sort of reconciliation efforts as well, which has been wonderful to be an active part of. We also, with KBC, we did prepping walls for the Mural Festival, and if prepping walls and priming walls was any indication of the amount of work that goes into painting an actual mural on a wall, absolutely hats off to those artists around town. A wonderful display of talent and dedication and perseverance, which will directly benefit our community for a decade at least, which is wonderful to see. Because it was a light month for meetings, I also had the opportunity to participate in a couple of webinars through McGill University, which were enlightening. So it was a really good experience overall. So those are my reports for now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Councillor Zabia.
Thank you. So the month of June, the month of June, sorry, I'm mixed up here. Joint fire I attended, but we didn't have a quorum, so I did put some notes in there of some of the items that were on the report. July 11th was the audit committee, and Deputy Mayor has discussed that. I just want to thank our finance department. They do a bang-up job. The Mural Festival was amazing this past weekend, so I'm going to thank KBC, the town staff, and all the talented artists. And you can't go without thanking Lindsay Young. I mean, that girl, every time I turned around, she was either carrying a ladder from one location to another, so we appreciate that. I do have something that I want to say to the citizens of Kentville, and I'm going to do that now in my time. So 2 years ago, I decided to run for a seat on this council. And truthfully, when you run, you don't know if you're going to win the seat or not. And when I did win, I was grateful and ready to represent Kentville and the citizens, and of course excited to work with the people that I share these seats with. Let's face it though, it's not an easy job to be the mayor of any town or reside on council. And for a second, if you think it is easy, you should probably try it out for yourself. As a new councillor, I walked into what I felt was a very tense atmosphere at Town Hall. Nobody would answer any of my questions or tell me what happened. I have emails that date back voicing my concerns, and I wanted to know why there had been an investigation. I was told that I had no right asking these because I was new, and I was better off if I didn't know. Found this hard to digest because I'm a business person, and my brain is wired to think that if the staff isn't happy, then I have to figure out what the problem is and try to help them. Time elapsed, and despite hoping, things didn't get any better. The tension spilled over into this council, and last July, a document fell into my lap detailing these allegations by the staff, written by a former CAO. Despite my pleas to meet with council to discuss and mediate these problems, I was ignored, and 18 hours later, as you know, I was served and threatened with a lawsuit by the town if I went public. But my conscience wouldn't let me ignore this. I realized that the staff at our town was crying out for help, and just last week, 2 years later, we are hearing about the same pleas for help from staff again, citing allegations that were apparently never dealt with 2 years ago and questioning an investigation with a supposed report that never surfaced, a report that the citizens of Kentville paid for. I have felt bullied and discriminated against on this council, all because I decided to speak up and tell the truth. I asked myself something yesterday. Am I proud to serve the citizens and the town of Kentville? You bet I am. I love this town and its home. But the real questions are, am I proud to sit up here amongst the silence from most of this group and lack of ability to want to do the right thing and fix these problems? No, I am not proud to sit here today. Am I proud that we are the laughing stock?
Counselor, you cannot disparage
Okay,
members.
my apologies.
Please.
Am I proud that we are the laughing stock of the province, if not the country? No, I am not proud of that either. Am I disappointed that Municipal Affairs has not stepped in to investigate all of this? Yes, they should have investigated these allegations. They should have spoken with the mayor and council of the day, and absolutely with the staff. That is their job. If the system is broken, then fix it. Nobody, including elected officials, have the right to come into town hall and disrupt the livelihoods of the staff here. So the question is, what do? Do you tuck your head between your legs and say no comment? Keep using the words policy and procedure, all the while knowing something bad happened. Do you pretend that everything is fine and that council is blameless? Do you keep brushing things under the rug and spending more and more tax dollars in hopes that all of this goes away yet again? That may very well be the solution to all of this, or so it seems. But I cannot sit here in good faith and pretend everything is fine when we all know it is not. Citizens are writing in letters to council and being ignored. I'm having to read them at most meetings, but tonight I decided not to because I know it would cause tension. We are here to serve the public, and if anyone in this room doesn't want to be accountable to the public, then this probably isn't the position for them. As my father always told me, stay yourself, be honest, and listen to the people. So here I am, once again, pleading with this council to come together for the betterment of this town and for our staff. It is time to do the right thing. Thank you.
CAO, did you want to update council on operational matters as discussed 2 weeks ago?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. So this is the time of year when staff are starting to take some vacation, so we're just moving different folks around into different acting positions and whatnot while folks are taking some time. Recently, the Regional Emergency Measures Group came together. I know there was talked a little bit about earlier in some reports. There are some tabletop exercises going on because as we start to approach hurricane season and making sure that we have coverage down at the emergency center in the event that it's needed. So we've got a number of staff members here in the town who will be attending because all of them play important roles whenever states of emergency are declared. Source Water Commission meetings took place, Town of Kentville Investment Committee, and internal facility planning work. This is the time of year where with occupational health and safety, we typically do a reset on what are some of the key priorities for the coming year. So typically we would look at things like the condition of this building and how staff are going to be working in that environment. But also we're looking at the committee itself and some of the training that's needed over the next number of months. So that work is put in place and moving forward. And just as a follow-up around the PACE program, so there was a conference call took place coordinating the efforts with Kentville and West Hants and PACE Atlantic. So a number of documents that were put together by the group and are going to be moving forward as per council's direction to the CAO. So that's just a quick update. A couple things that have been going on for the just over the last 2 weeks.
All right, thank you very much, CAO. And my report, you have access to it. Highlights: the Valley Ran held its AGM, and they did it at the Cineplex, which was kind of a different location, but very effective for what they were presenting. I had the pleasure of attending Regional Sewer Committee and almost got a tour, but that's been put off due to a few other things. And Audit Committee, you heard our audit tonight. It went quite well. Municipal Finance Corporation, we had a special board meeting to provide funding for a couple of towns, and housing roundtable held in West Hants on the 20th of July. It was hosted by our Member of Parliament, Cody Blois, and Minister Hussein was there, our Minister of Housing and Accessibility, and he was very, very frank with us, and what he was really talking about was the $14 billion that the Liberals have put aside for housing and the different grants. And I'm going to say that one of the highlights for homeowners is that you could be eligible, or you could actually apply for a loan, a low-interest loan of up to $40,000 to make retrofits for your housing. And I'm just going to add to the PACE conversation here. All of these grants and loans that the federal government is doing for housing are all stackable with other grants and things that you can get. So if you think of the ones that we have here in Nova Scotia, if you apply for one of those, you can still apply for the federal one, and their website is live now, and they are also saying that they will actually be responding to these requests within 4 to 6 months. It used to be 14 to 18 months, and so they've made some changes. And so if you're looking for a grant or a loan in the housing department, have a look at the federal government website with regards to that. Water Commission and source water protection. I was fortunate enough to bring greetings from the town of Kentville for the KCA grade 8 graduation. And again, always one of those days that, you see how excited the students are, and the parents probably have this little knot in their stomach as they watch their grade 8 student cross the stage, the school here is just, it's so wonderful, and just the way they take care of our students. I also got to go to Mrs. Diatter's, Madame Diatter's class for the last day of school, and she told us that she's leaving KCA for another opportunity. And I also had to present my homework, which was reciting the alphabet backwards, and she videotaped it. I only messed up twice, but got through it, and anyway, we had a good laugh about it. On the 7th of July, I had the pleasure of providing a tour of downtown Kentville to ACOA Vice President Chuck Mayette and our local Economic Development Officer, Kyla Pierik. And we're totally impressed with our downtown and the work that's going on. And we talked about the fact that we were going to be seeing some more murals, and now we can really show them off to their best. The committee meetings, as you can see, they've been briefed as we've gone through. Our new well will require a review of our current source water protection plan, and it will affect our land use bylaw, so we'll be opening that up again. And we're still looking at policy changes with regards to McGee Lake for non-motorized crafts and swimming. At this point in time, because it was our alternate water source, people who live on that lake cannot use the lake for swimming or for crafts. Audit presentation, and I also attended the Kings County Pride Summit, and they had some really excellent guest speakers. So that concludes my report, and all reports are added into the file of this meeting. So the next item we have is under new business is the Audit Committee report. You have the report, and out of the report from the committee are three recommendations, and they come to council as motions. So we met on the 11th of July to discuss the results and conduct the audit and conduct of the audit with Mr. Andy Force. We were provided with a draft copy of the audit statements, and committee members were provided with additional time to review the package prior to making a recommendation to council. And we had no further changes. So the audit committee recommendation is as follows: that council accept the 2021-2022 audit report and documentation as presented. So moved. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconder? Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Zabian. It has been moved and seconded that council accept the 2021-2022 audit report and documentation as presented. Is there any discussion on this matter? And the question is on adoption of the motion to accept the 2021-2022 audit report and documentation as presented. Voting is now open. I'm getting a R. Oh. Okay, I'm a yes. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. The next recommendation is with regards to the auditor. The firm of Kenton Duffett Chartered Professional Accountants competed and were awarded a 5-year auditing service contract with the town of Kentville in 2019. The Audit Committee recommends that the town of Kentville reappoint the firm of Kenton Duffett Chartered Professional Accountants to provide auditing services for the year 2022-2023. The firm was previously selected and approved for a 5-year contract with the town of Kentville, and reappointment occurs annually as a matter of form. So the motion is that council reappoint the firm of Kenton Duffett Chartered Professional Accountants to provide audit services for the year 2022-2023. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Huntley. It has been moved and seconded that council reappoint the firm of Kenton Duffett Chartered Professional Accountants to provide audit services for the year 2022-2023. Is there any discussion on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to reappoint the firm of Kenton Duffett Chartered Professional Accountants to provide audit services for the year 2022-2023. Voting is now open. I'm a yes. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. And the third recommendation coming out of the Audit Committee is with regards to the members of the citizen members of the committee. And the motion is that council appoint the following citizen committee voting members to the 2022-2023 Audit Committee: Ms. Susan McDougall and Mr. Jim Noonan.
So moved.
Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Gerard. It has been moved and seconded that council appoint the following citizen committee voting members to the 2022-2023 Audit Committee: Ms. Susan McDougall and Mr. Jim Noonan. Is there any discussion on this matter? The question is on adoption of the motion to appoint the following citizen committee voting members to the 2022-2023 Audit Committee: Ms. Susan McDougall and Mr. Jim Noonan. Voting is now open. Okay, I'm a yes. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, moving right along, our next item of new business is with regards to the regional sewer recommendations, and Deputy Mayor, I will hand that off to you, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll do this as two separate motions. So just to bring council up to speed, the town of Kentville currently has 2 wastewater bylaws, and the different chapters in the sanitary sewer provides different details around operations and enforcement and the prosecution for the system. And then there's another chapter for sanitary sewer charges, further details on operation and enforcement. So the Regional Sewer Committee actually voted unanimously in support of the following motion to ensure that all partners of the regional sewer system managed complementary bylaws. And so the motion reads that council support the recommendation of the Regional Sewer Committee to adopt and enact a complementary regional bylaw and the execution of an enforcement and prosecution agreement. I so move.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council support the recommendation of the Regional Sewer Committee to adopt and enact a complementary regional bylaw and the execution of an enforcement and prosecution agreement. Is there any discussion on this matter? The question is on adoption of the motion to support the recommendation of the Regional Sewer Committee to adopt and enact a complementary regional bylaw and the execution of an enforcement prosecution agreement. Voting is now open. I say yes. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Part 2 is with respect to the Regional Sewer Communication Plan. And the municipality of the County of Kings embarked on a media blitz at the end of May in support of notifying customers of the odor and its causes resulting from the normal turnover in the lagoons at the regional sewer. Communication specialist Ashley Thompson presented a communication plan to the Regional Sewer Committee for consideration to educate customers on preventing inorganic materials entering the system. And the plan was presented and the amount to increase to the current year budget. The Regional Sewer Committee voted unanimously in support of the communication motion. So my motion reads that council support funding of only the radio advertising plan at an approximate cost of $5,000. And further authorize this on-planned expenditure in the 2022-2023 sanitary sewer area service operation budget. And further, that the CAO coordinate communication support between the Town of Kentville Communications team and the Kings County Communications Specialist. I so move.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Huntley, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council support funding of only the radio advertising plan at an approximate cost of $5,000 and further authorize this unplanned expenditure in the 2022-2023 sanitary sewer area service operating budget. And further, that the CAO coordinate communication support between the Town of Kentville Communications team and the Kings County Communications Specialist. Is there any discussion on this matter? Councillor York?
$5,000 is a lot of money to spend on an education piece. Is there a lot of that happening presently? A lot of the wrong materials ending up in the sewer?
May I respond directly or through the chair?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so the initial ask was actually 13,000. So we pared it down to 5,000 just for the radio communication piece. You know, clearly there's a lot of citizens that have been affected by this odor. So we've looked at the communication component that we feel will get the best bang for our buck. And we felt 5,000 was a fair number and 13 was a tad high.
If I may, I guess what I'm asking, is the issue citizen users, or is it an issue of an outdated system that might benefit from being repaired?
A combination thereof.
Okay.
Pee, poop, and paper. The only thing that should be going down the sewer.
That's it.
And we are having issues with that.
Okay.
So that's where the education is.
Okay.
And it was between me and Mayor Moutart who would wear the poop emoji to go to KCA and do the pee, poop, and
Nice.
and paper. So we just never know. Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to support funding of only the radio advertising plan at an approximate cost of $5,000 and further authorize this unplanned expenditure in the 2022-2023 sanitary sewer area service operating budget, and further that the CAO coordinate communication support between the Town of Kentville Communications team and the Kings County Communications Specialist. Voting is now open. I'm a yes. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, CAO, correspondence?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. We have two items. The first item is from Mr. Cyril White, who was writing, basically thanking councillors who responded to his previous letters and for providing him with policy G70. He's aware that the policy is under review. He does wish that his correspondence be specifically entered into the record, if not read in its totality. And also wanted to thank the Kentville Fire Department and mutual aid volunteers for their work with regards to the tragic fire at Jason's Independent. The second item is the Annapolis Valley Regional Library, and this is for, I guess, more information for council, that the Annapolis Valley Regional Library Annual Report, dated April 1, 2022 to March 31st, 2022, is available. So I have a hard copy of that available if anybody is interested in reviewing it. They can either see it after session tonight or have you drop by at any point in time and be able to review that. So that's my two pieces of correspondence this evening.
All right, thank you very much, CAO. So we move on now to our public comment. Citizens are invited to make comment to council on any matter currently before the council. We ask that you please state your name and address, and you will be provided with 3 minutes. The mic will be shut off at the 3-minute mark, so please keep your comments to that 3 minutes.
Mayor and Council, thank you for the rather thankless job that you do. I understand that and honestly don't care about all the other stuff that seems to consume far too much of the important work you do. So I just want to talk about chickens.
Your name.
Oh, John
I know
Andrew.
we
I
know
live in
you,
Kentville. Yeah, sorry. I want to talk about chickens. It seems like a ridiculous thing to talk about, and I haven't had a lot of time because I've been working, and so I didn't have a lot of time to put these thoughts together. So I hope they make sense. And I don't want to characterize or miscategorize the post that I saw going around, but it was immediately concerning to me. So I'm going to just read this, and then I can avoid going way off into the weeds. I believe attempts to control, regulate, and profit from food resiliency beyond the absolute minimum necessary is an untimely error. 6 years ago, there was talk, not just from this council, but provincially, of stepping back from red tape in Nova Scotia's municipalities. But that has proven to be little more than a catchy conference theme name. Surely our citizens could suggest a wide array of more relevant topics, and most would prefer to hear far less from this council on matters which are already regulated and those for which town staff are more than capable of handling. Before I go into why I think chickens are an issue, it should be noted that urban chicken ownership has been upheld in accordance with Section 7 of the Charter for more than 10 years, repeatedly in numerous Canadian towns and cities. More importantly than all of what I just said is rising inflation and increased cost of living is contributing to a growing desire for less government involvement in our day-to-day lives and certainly our pocketbooks. Chickens are but a small piece of the broader need for urban agriculture, but there are multiple reasons why backyard chickens should be encouraged. There is cause for significant concern around food resiliency given predictions of reduced wheat production for the 2022 and 2023 yields. This will undoubtedly impact food prices significantly, as is predicted by economists and food experts, and availability to many food items we currently enjoy. Strategizing around food resilience and security includes all aspects of urban agriculture, including the ability to produce eggs at our own homes. Eggs combined with home-based vegetable growing has the potential to help us meet full dietary needs. The Mississauga, and I did send a letter, but it was late, too late to be included, but I did have a letter there, and there are links for some of these things on the letter that I sent to council, to both the CAO and to Lindsay's addresses. The Mississauga Urban Agriculture Strategy sums up the benefits as follows. Environmental. We can reduce food miles, improving soil health, supporting biodiversity and pollinator habit. Social. Improving food security, providing educational opportunities to increase food literacy for all ages.
Your mic is off.
Pardon?
Your mic is off.
Okay.
You've done your 3 minutes.
I think you need to hear this, and I'm going to request, because last time I was here, it was 10 minutes. 3 minutes is not enough.
Okay.
You have people in this community who are going to be hungry, so I would like someone to make a decision that I can have 3 more minutes to get through this.
Council, how say you?
Yes. Well, then if everybody gets the same amount of time, then.
Exactly,
then
yes,
I
no?
don't have a problem with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry, how many minutes are we?
3 should do
3
it.
minutes.
Three additional?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
All right. I'll skip the Mississauga recommendations, but you can check that out, and I hope that letter will be included in public record. So here's some of my own thoughts. Well, some more to conclude. The Mississauga thoughts are there's many ways urban agriculture and climate change are connected. Some include growing food in towns and cities helps reduce food miles traveled, shortens travel time from farm to plate, and helps reduce greenhouse gas emissions. More green spaces can help biodiversity, pollinators, and reduce urban heat island effect. By growing organically and using sustainable methods, reduces the need for fertilizers, pesticides, and helps improve soil. All right. While some regulations and setbacks, number of chickens, etc., are reasonable, a licensing fee should be discouraged as it risks creating barriers and treading on protected human rights around food production. Given the many benefits of this practice as a gesture of goodwill, I suggest Kentfield consider a voluntary program with built-in incentives such as teaching and info sessions for which participants can purchase necessary building materials at a reduced cost, something that perhaps could be arranged with Home Hardware or Fraser's, and I'm sure they'd be happy to facilitate something like that. This is a very normal practice for some of our immigrant families. What a great chance to invite them to teach us. Provide grants to lower income individuals and families so that they can enjoy and participate as well. And so to sum up, to encourage buy-in and to build community. There's lots of links. All you have to do is go on YouTube and there's all kinds of stuff. It doesn't have to be smelly. In terms of decibels, chickens don't usually go beyond 70 decibels. A dog is 90. So there's not much justification. I understand the rationale around larger livestock, but anyway, I ask you to think about that. You know what population I work with, and I'm really worried, honestly, frightened. So, thank you.
Thank you. So we're at 5 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Sharon Keogh. I live at 29 Alicia Boulevard, and I'm here yet again. Recently, we've been featured in Frank Magazine yet again, and this was based on interviews with, or what they focused on was interviews with the town staff, and in addition to that, we also had the Where's Waldo poster. That prompted me to write 3 letters to you, of which the last one was yesterday. And given that you're going in camera, and I suspect going to be discussing a lot of what I wrote to you about, I'm going to share my letter that I wrote to you yesterday so that it's fresh in your mind. So good morning. So I would have shared with you 2 questions that have and are still plaguing me. Question number 1, according to the mayor, the NDA, which was solely requested by Kelly Rice, included the letter describing the accusations. If that is accurate, it presents the question. Why would the CAO, who purposely gathered staff in her office to brainstorm and record the items in this letter, in an effort to get support from municipal affairs to get help, want to seal this letter in her requested NDA? And the second question that came from that was, according to the Frank article, staff issued a Freedom of Information request to obtain a copy of the Weston report. It was denied on the grounds of attorney-client privilege, according to Frank, not under the grounds of sealed under NDA. I would suspect the latter has more merit for a refusal, given that the client, the town of Kentfield, could easily abandon the former and release the document. I have received no replies up till yesterday, or last night I should say. I've got a maximum of 3. If the answer to question 1 is she did not, then Mayor Snow lied to the public. And all councillors that might have been privy to the fact that Kelly Rice did not request this letter to be included in her requested NDA and did not correct the mayor, would not those councillors, by omission, also be guilty of lying to the public? Perhaps the solicitor could provide you insight on that. As an alternative, again, if the answer is she did not and no councillors were aware, then mayor council Mayor Snow also lied to council. Of course, it is always possible that perhaps Mayor Snow was simply mistaken, that her memory failed her. Regardless, I would like a response to that. Regarding question 2, if it is deemed that it was the town who wanted the letter of accusations, the following investigation and the report identified by Frank as the Weston report to be part of an NDA, perhaps the town could request that information be rescinded from any NDA protection. Same for the former. Bottom line, wouldn't it be as simple as a vote of council to at least provide a copy of the Weston report to every councillor, thereby providing council the ability to review the findings, determine if they agree with the supposed conclusions that the Western report, as reported by the mayor, that such accusations were unsubstantiated, and if not, take appropriate action that collectively you deem appropriate to help staff heal, to help council heal, and to finally bring this matter to rest. The added bonus is we will stop spending more and more tax dollars on legal fees to keep this hidden. I've also repeatedly asked regarding the status of the conflict of interest charges against Councillor Gerard. Again, I've had no response. Note, I have no opinion to the validity of such charges. However, they were levied quite a while ago, and a decision has not been forthcoming. When my husband was first elected to council, the incumbent councillors of the day were not happy. And within days, he too was charged with conflict of interest. Within 2 weeks, a hearing was held, and a decision was rendered days later. By the way, the town of Kentville did not offer to pay his legal bills. Full disclosure, he didn't have any because he represented himself. And since he served for 11 additional years, obviously the case was dismissed. The reality, though...
Time. You can have my 5 minutes. No, it doesn't work that way. Time, please.
Just continuing on here. Full disclosure, he didn't...
Your name, please.
Marcia McNeil. Full disclosure, he didn't have any, as my husband represented himself, and since he served for 11 additional years, obviously the case was dismissed. The reality, though, was had he lost, he would have forfeited his seat. While I wish Councillor Gerard the best, we need a decision in a timely manner. Councillor Gerard continues to make decisions on behalf of the town, and while this is reasonable for a short time, it's not reasonable that he should continue to represent the town indefinitely without a decision, hence making the accusations moot. And of course, the longer it takes, the more legal bills mount. I have also asked about the status of the Code of Conduct violations. The only response I've received was the CEO will be updating us shortly. That too was months ago. If my memory hasn't failed me, a review was to be completed in April. I also remember the solicitor in public sharing with you that this needs to be done in public. This is not eligible for in camera, I believe he indicated. You might find this uncomfortable, but it still needs to be done in public. I'm not quoting him directly, but I believe that is the legal opinion he provided. So where are we? It's now the end of July. Again, legal bills are mounting. And of course, we still have the Robinson legal matter, which continues to siphon tax dollars. From what I see, you continue to dig in your heels in the sand and are unwilling to work with the developer. As of April 1st, you have spent almost half the monies from the sale of the land received. I believe approximately $28,000 in legal fees, and who knows much more since April 1st. You still indicate that it is not vengeance, but a loss of confidence in the builder. Again, I would urge you to seek solutions that would provide safeguards for whatever perceived risks the town envisions. Work with the developer. Stop spending our tax dollars on unnecessary legal bills. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I good to start? Okay. Holy smokes, I don't like public speaking.
Please.
Good evening. My name is Fiona Van Wilkenberg of 47 Wade Street. It does seem a shame that tax-paying citizens are limited to 3 minutes, tonight 5, when in the very near past, we've had certain councillors commandeer entire meetings to scream incoherently. Those ramblings seem to dwarf my 3 minutes, but I will use them to the best of my ability. In the July 11th CIC meeting, just after the Kings County Community Food Council's presentation, Council applauded the work that was being done to increase self-sufficiency and food sustainability. Then, in nearly the same breath, Councillor Maxwell was upset that more people in town were starting backyard chicken flocks, and that they are doing it well within the confines of the laws.
Excuse me, that's not public.
What's not public?
That's slanderous. I never said anything in a
Councillor
council meeting about chickens.
Councillor Maxwell,
Yeah.
you don't have the floor. This is public comment.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna have false information spread about you.
Am I?
Please continue.
Thank you. Sorry. I wonder what sparked this sudden distaste. In that meeting, there was absolutely nothing put to a vote to rewrite the animal control bylaw. So how come this bylaw was able to get drafted, then be quietly added to tonight's meeting? Am I missing something, or do you all only follow procedure when it suits you? My husband and I are truly law-abiding citizens. We never complain, we look out for our neighbors, and we pay our taxes on time, even though we know a good portion of it gets wasted on vitriolic and vindictive actions such as this proposed bylaw. This is where we and many other model citizens will put our foot down. I'm asking the council and all citizens watching, what next? A license and fee to have a veggie garden because it may be considered unsightly to some? An application to ride loud motorcycles and cars through town because they make a noise above a certain decibel? An application for children to play outside freely because sometimes they're loud and make messes? I'm asking you all to think critically. You could be opening Pandora's box of government regulation by approving of and passing this piece of ridiculous legislation. If any of you can produce proof of actual complaints registered within the town since the laws were changed in the fall of 2021, then I'm sure the law-abiding chicken owners would be willing to have discussions over this. Until then, I think the only reasonable thing to do is to table it for another time. As Mayor Snow just said when when you guys were talking about the Heritage Bylaw, I think we should have the right bylaw to start with. And lastly, I won't scold or shame any of you, but I think it's important to remember that you're being paid handsomely to make decisions on behalf of the citizens. By voting in support of this bylaw, you are biting the hand that feeds you, considering the vast majority of considering the vast majority of Kentville seems to support the current bylaw. I want to thank all of you for your time and encourage any of you to reach out to me. I have a small backyard flock. They're happy, they're clean, they're rat-free, everything. I'd love to have some people over. You can come take a look, have a coffee, whatever. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Ian Black. I live at 37 Blossom Drive. This is the first time I've attended a council meeting. And I just want to say I've lived in Kentville for the past 38 years. Over that 38 years, I enjoyed Kentville. I liked it when I first came here. Over that 38 years, I've seen a lot of improvements. Kentville's grown. Particularly over the last 10 years, I've seen a lot of good things happen in this town. They make me very pleased to be here and make me very proud of Kentville. I think the credit for that is in large part to the employees of the town and also to the town council, because you're the people that guide it, you're the people that lead us to these solutions. And as a taxpayer, I appreciate that. First time, as I mentioned, first time I've attended a meeting, town council meeting. I've attended a lot of meetings in my life. I want to compliment you, Mayor, on the way you run it. You run a good meeting. Sometimes hard to stick onto an agenda, but you do a good job on that. I'm pleased to see that the councilors, by and large, with a couple of exceptions, stick to the town business. That's what I want to see as a taxpayer. And the very best news is I'm going to stick to the 3 minutes. Thank you very much for all of your efforts.
Thank you. No further? All right then. The council has legal matters which must be conducted in a closed session. We require a motion to go into a closed session to discuss the agenda items, and we will not be returning to Facebook Live for completion of the meeting or the adjournment. So the motion is to move into a closed session to discuss the agenda items. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Second, thank you, Councillor Huntley. Yes. It has been moved and seconded that the council move into a closed session. The question is on adoption of the motion to move into the closed session. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried, and the time is 8:39. Break.